Hello everyone, it's RS, and today I just kind of wanted to go through the relic tiers and rank the relics not by, how good they are, but actually how much they change the game. So to start off, we're going to start off with Animal Wrangler. I'd love to say that this is one of those relics that is really going to change the game, but unfortunately, unlike most relics, it's not going to change the game as much as some of the others, mostly because the archaeology skill kind of solves this. It does change the game a little bit for Hunter. The way that it changes the Hunter skill is it allows you to bank stuff immediately. The double loot is kind of nice, and then the zero fail rate on catching your Hunter creatures is really nice, but it just doesn't do enough in my opinion, and for that reason I'm going to put it in D. I think it helps certain things, but it's more like a quality of life buff than like a game changing buff. Divine Gatherer, I also am going to probably put in D here. Kind of along the same lines, it just feels more like a quality of life buff. The archaeology skill with the relic can give you the same effect as the woodcutting buff that you're getting. And with divination, you're never going to train divination that way. You're mostly going to do caches or dungeoneering divination, so it kind of weakens that buff and it doesn't make it game changing. Again, it's just quality of life. I kind of wish they would have switched up the relics a little bit. I think it would have been a good option if they had put the agility and thieving relic together and then put it as a tier 1 option and then added these two together and then just given us different tier 2 relics other than Farming Frenzy. For Excavator, I'm going to put this as a B. The reason it's going as a B is because it does change the game, because it allows you to train the smithing and crafting skills while doing mining, which is not something you can regularly do. It's very helpful for that, and I think this is why it's honestly one of the best picks, is because this one trains 4 skills, this trains 3, this trains 3, and the skills that it trains are very useful because you need them for invention. For the agility relic, it does not really change the game at all. It does give you money, but I think the biggest problem with it on when you're looking at how it changes the game is it just speeds up agility, and I'm going to say the same for the thieving relic. This is because once you have the archaeology relics, you can get to the point where most of the things that you pickpocket, you don't fail anyway. Loot being noted isn't really relevant. The one thing, and this is actually why I'm going to move it up to D, is the stalls not depleting. That's a really nice perk, but overall, it just doesn't do a lot to change the game. Farming Frenzy, this is going to be the very first one that we put into S. It innately changes the game. This is because it changes the farming skill completely. You're no longer training farming by waiting time, you're just planting your seeds and going on. The big thing that this does is it gives you 120 farming and 120 herb lore almost immediately, as long as you're getting your herb seeds. An easy way to get the farming seeds would be to pickpocket druids in Al-Kharid. This relic really does just change how you do 2 of the skills on the league completely, and that is game changing in itself. Next up we have the Voidwalker relic. The Voidwalker relic is going to go in F. It might be one of the ones that changes the game the least. The reason for this is all of the jewelry that you can get from this is already in the game. It doesn't do anything outside of giving you those jewelries and making them unlimited. But if you're getting crafting up, which if you have Excavator you will be, it's going to go ahead and make it so you're already getting all that jewelry, you're already getting all those teleports. So for that, it's kind of disappointing on how it changes the game. Fairy's Flight, we're probably going to put into C. The reason I have it here in C is it allows you to teleport to spirit trees, farming patches, and fairy rings almost immediately, but all of these teleports have things that are already planned out for if you're doing your farm runs. It's really easy to get to spirit trees or fairy rings off of existing teleports that are in the game already. So while it does change it and it allows you to get to them immediately, it doesn't do what you would really want it to, of getting you to remote places. Last is the Assassin's Insight. I think this is probably going to go into B tier. The reason I'm putting it in B is, unlike the previous two, the Slayer teleports are something that is not in the game, and some of these Slayer teleports are to very remote places. It's going to help speed up the Slayer skill, where, farming Frenzy, if you don't take that, the Fairy's Flight is a little bit better. But I think if you're taking Farming Frenzy, which if you compare it to the other two relics in that category, it is the best choice most of the time, then it makes sense to take Assassin's Insight, as it does do more to change the game versus the other two. Next up we have Production Master. Production Master is also going to go into S. I think Production Master is just one of those relics that innately changes the game. There is nothing like it in the game, and it's going to speed up a lot of skills. As some other content creators have discussed, it doesn't speed up as much as you think it would, but it's still a really good relic, and it's still going to do quite a bit to change the game and change the way that you're playing. Next up is Rejuvenated. I'm going to put it in C tier, and C tier might seem a little high because it doesn't really change the game innately, but it allows you to grab one of these other relics that you wouldn't have selected, which is going to offer value to pair it with something else that's up here. So for that, I'm going to put it in C tier. The next relic up is Clue Connoisseur. This is going to probably be an A. It gives you infinite charges on the Globetrotter outfit, which is super nice. It's something that you can get in game, but it's also just going to speed up your clues so much that it's not going to feel like it's clue scrolls. Next up is the Necromancy Soulborn relic. Soulborn I'm going to put into C tier. The reason it's going into C tier is it doesn't really change Necromancy that much. You're going to get a little bit of a boost to your combat damage, but it doesn't change how Necromancy functions. For that reason, I'm also putting Crit Happens in C tier, and Bombardment is going to go into B tier. Crit Happens really just improves your crits, gives you the rune refund, but Bombardment does change the game versus these two. The Chinchampa effect is actually really strong. I think it's the weakest of the combat relics, but the way that it changes the game, range training is going to be very fast if you take this relic, especially compared to the others, because you're just going to be nuking things with Chinchampas with your normal attacks, and you can easily get 120 or 200 mil ranging almost immediately. Next is the melee relic, Barbarism. This is probably the most game-changing relic, at least to this point. Barbarism changes the way that melee functions completely. With a halberd, you now will have 3 tile attack range. The attack range affects what you can do with melee. The other thing is the heals are going to be massive. The damage buff is massive. It is one of the most game-changing relics in the entire league. Next is Banker's Note. A lot of people would want to put Banker's Note up here because being able to bank anywhere in the game is huge. But I'm going to put it in A, and the reason I'm putting it in A is there are so many bank access areas in RuneScape, especially compared to old school. You have so many opportunities to bank and to do different things that in old school RuneScape you would have to walk very far for. So it doesn't change the game as much as some of the other relics here. Next up is Perfection. It's going to go in D tier. It's going to go at the front of D tier. Infinite Components is nice, but you can get the components through time as you work through the league by disassembling stuff. There's a lot of nice things that it does, but it just doesn't change the game as much as some of these other relics. Next is the Specialist. Specialist is a game changer. Specialist, you're going to be dumping specs after specs after specs. It's going to give you a lot of damage. Not having to have the weapon and still being able to get the spec is going to be really nice. It's going to save you an inventory space. Uh, it is a big game changer. Next is Everlasting Faith. While this might be one of my favorite relics, I'm going to put it in high A. I think, if I'm honest, I think the revive on it is weak, especially compared to me last year in the old school league taking Last Stand. The Last Stand revive, there was times where you just died on purpose to get the massive buff, and you would just go and nuke things during the 6-second buff. The Everlasting Faith relic doesn't do that. I think having Protection Prayers and Soul Split on at the same time is going to be massive. And I think if you pair it with the right things, this relic can be really good. But the relic doesn't do enough for me to put it into S tier. Last is going to be the Ascension relic. This one's going right next to the Melee relic. I think the God Book buffs every 4.8 seconds is going to be extremely strong. I think this is one of the strongest relics and most game-changing relics that you can have, because there's nothing in the game that's going to replicate the God Book buffs over and over with all of the God Books that exist. Sure, you can get one, but having all of the buffs is going to be something that's really hard to achieve inside the league without this relic. In addition to that, the Stone of Jazz buff that you're going to get is going to be massive for increasing your damage. Like I said, last year with Last Stand, you kind of had the revive mechanic of the Everlasting Faith with the buff of Ascension, and it was really strong. And I think the stronger part of that is going to be the damage buff. So for that, I'm putting that in S. And this is my tier list. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you would change, and like and subscribe to the video. I appreciate you guys watching, and have a good day.